This is CNN, a network of Turner Broadcasting System.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. We went viral this week just spitting facts about transgender violence, specifically attacking schools and children. The pattern is undeniable. Everything from the Minneapolis shooting, Nashville, Lakewood Church shooting, Colorado Springs, Denver, Aberdeen, Iowa High School, so on and so forth. Radical gender ideology is driving violence and targeting innocent people at a much, much higher rate than the rest of society's shooters. I don't want any shooters anywhere. But by population, this is an absolute and total bloodbath and a horrifying, radicalized pattern targeting children for murder. It's totally evil, but of course, this is something that CNN can't allow. They can't allow for narratives like this to get out, so they have to blend and break the numbers and the data, and they tried to do that with Sebastian Gorka, and it didn't go great for them, actually. It's being called a massive train wreck. Sebastian Gorka, obviously somebody who went on with this Breonna Keeler, not the smartest person on CNN, and just demolished her. Forgive me if I don't go with CNN's stats, okay, says Sebastian Gorka. He straight up refuted their attempts to dismiss the clear targeting of Christians. CNN is obviously an anti-Christian network. They've shown time and time again to have an anti-Christian bias. We are no longer silenced. There will be zero tolerance for anybody who wants to harm God's children. Christ is king. The demolishing, ladies and gentlemen, begins right now. Okay, so it started out with Sebastian Gorka explaining the true data and saying that in just the past few years, more than half a dozen attacks of a similar variety involving individuals who were confused about their gender. You can see the CNN anchor losing her mind right here.
We're hearing the Minneapolis Police Department saying Friday that authorities have been in contact with the shooter's parents. What are they telling them? What is being learned from the parents?
Well, it would not be responsible of me to reveal what is happening in an ongoing investigation, but we have to put this incident into the broader context of what we've witnessed in just the last few years. More than half a dozen attacks of a similar variety involving individuals who are confused about their gender, to put it mildly. And then, as you mentioned at the top of your monologue, we have the videos, we have the statements from the dead shooter that were clearly anti-Christian, just as with the transgender attack on the Nashville Christian school in which more children were killed. There is an ideological connection to multiple of these attacks where innocent children, especially Christians and Catholics, are targeted, and that is very, very disturbing.
I know you have focused very much on this shooter being trans, and I do want to speak with you about that, but while I respect that you cannot reveal specifics about what the parents may be saying, can you characterize whether what they're saying is helpful?
No, I cannot do that. That would be utterly inappropriate from a policy position in the White House. We leave that to the local police authorities and to the FBI.
Then next, Sebastian Gorka calls out Breonna Keeler for using the wrong data. This is pretty humiliating when this happens live on your network, saying that they're using all gun violence data, and predominantly that data is gang on gang violence. It's not ideological attacks. You must understand it's different when people are just who have nothing are just shooting each other in the streets of Baltimore than somebody who's clearly attacking a church filled with innocent people. So two adult gang members doing a drive-by in some bombed out neighborhood in Baltimore is not the same as a bunch of children in a church, and somebody targeting them who has a paper target of Jesus and has magazines filled with bullets saying that they're going after God's people. And it's this was obviously a targeted hate crime, right? So if you do just hate crimes, then it's astronomical, the amount of transgender murders. Here's Sebastian Gorka calling her out.
Okay, so let me ask you about this. 96% of attackers when you're looking at the U.S. Secret Service National Threat Assessment Center, looking at 172 mass attacks in the U.S. between 2016 and 2020, 96% were non-trans men. So I know you're focusing on this shooter being trans. The shooter was trans, and that is certainly of note. But are you missing the bigger picture here when you zero in on that instead of more broadly these school shooters as an epidemic, and you perhaps miss the through line that connects them all?
Well, no, because your facts obfuscate two things. You are using data based upon the predominant gun violence, which is gang-on-gang violence with zero ideological content. If you remove all of that, the gang violence on the streets of Chicago, LA, Detroit, then you come down to a much smaller data set. So it's like those who say, gun violence in America causes so many deaths, and then fail to note that the majority of the stats they are using refer to also suicides by gun, which of course is not what we are talking about here today. So let's concentrate on mass shootings at schools, specifically Christian or Catholic schools. Then the data set is wholly different. So don't conflate different data sets just to make a political point. There was an ideological content to this attack. That's what terrorism is. It's not because somebody didn't get the drug deal they wanted. It is an ideological message, whether it was anti-Israel, as in this case, whether it targeted President Trump in its rhetoric, as we saw on one of the magazines written by the perpetrator on that YouTube video, or whether we saw the fact that it was anti-Christian and targeting children. That has nothing to do with gang violence. Let's not mix the two things up.
Absolute bloodbath here. Sebastian Gorka going after CNN's data. Forgive me if I don't go with CNN's stats. CNN, of course, lies. They created fake news. Here's Sebastian Gorka saying just that.
So let's narrow it down then, because by CNN's count, when you look at 32 school shootings since 2020, in which you have 4 or more people who have been killed, so these are the larger school shootings, only 3 of 32 of those shootings were committed by transgender shooters.
Yeah, forgive me if I don't go with CNN stats, okay? CNN has proven itself to be wholly inaccurate in all kinds of things for the last 10 years, perpetrators of the Russia hoax, and that we didn't have an open border. So please forgive me if I don't take your stats for granted.
All right, it's simple math. 2 of 32
No, it's
shootings.
not. It's distortions. You are distorting the facts. Let me be clear. In just a couple of years, we have seen 7 mass shootings involving people of transgender nature or who are confused in their gender. 7
I saw what
in
you
just
tweeted.
the last couple of years.
I see
that
your
is
list of 7.
inordinately high. So
I see your list of 7. 2 of them are Sebastian and Mr. Gorka.
Stick with the facts and not CNN's pseudo facts.
We can't stick with your facts because they're not accurate. In fact, in 2 of them, one of the ones you quoted,
let's talk about CNN's reputation for accuracy.
In one of the ones in which you posted, there was no evidence that he was trans.
Right.
In another, the individual was known within his family by male pronouns and used anti-LGBT
you have an agenda.
rhetoric.
Sebastian Gorka, then my favorite line of the entire interview, saying, "You created fake news live. You are fake news." Sebastian Gorka went on CNN's airwaves and said, "You are the fake news." It's amazing. Defending Christians. It's a wonderful thing. Go in, Seb.
No, well, let me ask you this. You've made it clear, and this is not going to change. You think transgender people are the problem here. So what specifically do you think should be done?
No. When did I say that?
All right, you clearly think
when did I say that,
you
Brianna?
think it's a pattern?
You just created live fake news. You just did it right in front of the small viewership you have.
Mr. Gorka, what do you think should be done here? You have zeroed in on the fact, on what you see is a problem, what you claim is a problem. What do you want to do about it? What do you want to do about this problem you see?
I have noticed a disturbing... Do you think it's a problem that individuals are targeting little children at Catholic schools? Do you think that's something we should ignore?
Of course I think that's a problem.
Thank you. So what we should do is we should look at the early warning signals, the signs. One of these shooters at a recent school shooting had 24 interactions with the local law enforcement. Now, that beggars belief. We should be providing off-ramps. We should be providing mental health options for these individuals. I find it hard to believe that an individual goes from getting his mother to sign a change of name certificate age 17, and then just a handful of years later is mowing down innocent children in a church pew during a Catholic mass, and nobody realized there was a problem. That's what we have to address to save the next children from the next atrocity. It's not about the sexual proclivities of the individual. It's the fact that nobody seems to notice a very disturbing pattern towards violence. You don't wake up one morning saying, I'm going to do a video on YouTube threatening to kill the president, targeting Jews, targeting children. That doesn't happen overnight. Somebody saw that degradation, somebody saw those mental issues and said nothing. That's what we have to prevent. The early warning signals must be addressed if children's lives are to be saved.
And what about all the non-trans school shooters?
What about all the same thing happens? They have multiple interactions with authorities, with their schools, with the principals. Why is something not being done? Instead of blaming an inanimate object, which is the weapon, how about addressing the human being instead and giving them aid, giving them psychological support, giving them an off-ramp? That's what needs to happen. We need to stop the violence before it occurs.
To that point, DHS cut funding to the Minnesota Department of Safety and the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office in July. That is the kind of funding that's used to assess and manage mass violence threats like these. Was that a mistake, and should it be reinstated?
The same state of Minnesota that actually enacted gun-free zones, that we know this killer actually favored in his manifesto, in his videos. He studied the Aurora shooters policy of looking for sites where individuals were not allowed to legally carry and protect themselves. So I'd start not with the policies coming out of a Department of Homeland Security that gets the threat. I was with Governor Noem just a few days ago, and I'd concentrate on those municipalities and those governors like Tim Walz who do what? Disarm honest citizens who could protect lives and save lives. Let's start there.
This is how you know that the CNN anchor lost. You can see the distinct sigh here. It's pretty great. You can see that there's like an actual, right there, you can see the actual literal sigh. This is the face of defeat. And well done, Sebastian. We needed an exchange like this. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not taking it anymore. The time for truth is here. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. See ya.